Those who support the governor should stay with him and vote for him, and I don't want your vote. If you have that hate in your heart, keep it there. I want the vote of the people of Florida who care about our state. Good Democrats, good independents, good Republicans. Unify with this ticket.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy's, like, there's a double risky fake here. If I see hatred in this guy, in his eyes, and I'm accusing this guy of confession through projection, this guy is Christ, running for governor of Florida. If I say that I see hate exuding from this individual and then go with the accusation, confession through projection, well, then someone's going to say, Viva, you're confessing through projection because you see hate in his eyes. Therefore, the hate must be in your heart. I'll live with that risk. Look, this is literally the face of the caricaturized curmudgeon. What's the word for an angry old man sitting on his front porch telling the kids to get off his lawn. Get off my lawn.
Those who support the governor should
look at the scowl in this guy's face while he lectures others about having hate in their heart.
Stay with him.
Look at that.
And vote for him. And I don't want your vote.
I don't want your vote because you're a racist. You're a bigot. You're an awful, awful person. And I don't. This has to be memed right here.
I don't want your vote. I don't want your vote. I don't want your vote.
Oh, you know, that could make a good songify. I don't want you. Let's let it run one more time.
If you have that hate in your heart, keep it there.
Look at this guy. Full of love, full of peace, love, and happiness.
I want the vote of the people of Florida who care about our state. Good Democrats, good independents, good Republicans. Unify with this ticket.
I'm surprised he didn't resort to deplorables. Surprised he didn't use the word deplorable somewhere in there. I want good people, not bad. And by the way, everything that he just described right there, it's basically like a political euphemism for I don't want your vote because you're a bad person. And if I get elected, I don't have to worry about your concerns, represent you, reflect your interests whatsoever because I didn't want your vote in the first place, dummy. Now I'm in power and I feel morally empowered to ignore you, to disregard you, and to not represent you, even though I was elected to represent all Floridians, because I only want the votes of the good ones, not the bad ones, which means I only have the political, moral, ethical obligation to represent the good ones, not the bad ones. When he loses, because he will lose, from what I understand. Let me just back up here. When he loses, there will be remixes. I don't want your vote. Congratulations. Be careful what you wish for. And imagine running for office and basically telling people, the citizens you're supposed to be elected to represent, I don't care about you. I don't like you. You're hateful, awful people. And I don't even want to know you exist. I'm a bit close to the camera. I did something here. And I don't know what I did, but I have to sit back now. Did I zoom in? All right, no, that's the intro. There's a whole heck of a lot of confession through projection. This man who looks quite angry, quite hateful, barking at people that he doesn't want their votes. Stay home. Oh, HD. Hold on. What the heck, man? Who changed the settings on my computer? I blame the kids. I'm going to blame the kids. I don't know how it could be the kids' fault. Don't know how it could be their fault, but it's their fault. Is this better? This is so much better. Why was I in low resolution 360 HP? This is the way it's supposed to be, people. Okay, good. Barb, thank you very much. Okay. I was talking to someone on the phone before this stream, and I was saying, every day feels like it's one step further into the descent into absolute madness. Like you think tomorrow can't be crazier than today. You thought today couldn't be crazier than yesterday. And lo and behold, it is. If you don't vote for me, you ain't good. That's a play on Joe Biden's if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. A white old man saying that to a young black man who's interviewing him, Charlemagne the God, telling a black man that if you don't vote for me, and then he's got to get into his stereotype drawl. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. And these are the people lecturing other people and condemning other people for racism. Just got in from a 3,527-mile trip in 5 days, just in time to get my original Enterprise model and Viva Fry and friends, woohoo, drive that 18-wheeler every week. My goodness, Dave McKell. Welcome back. Welcome home. And holy cows, hold on a second. There's a lot of, I haven't even done I finally caught a live stream. Would love if you, spat on my computer again. Would love if you and Robert had Judge Andrew Napolitano on. See if we can make that happen. There is a sidebar tonight with Michael. Oh, geez. There's two. Michael. Oh my. What am I totally? The heck is my problem, man? I don't want to ruin any plugs here. What's my problem that I can't remember the name? But someone help me. What the? I have to go to the thumbnail now because I can't remember. I can't remember my own life anymore. There's an N in it. There's two N's in it. Doesn't matter. I know the chat has already gotten it. Such a Millerman, for gosh sake. Michael Millerman. And it's going to be Russia talk tonight. And there's news there. Yeah. Senile. I blame the kids. Don't look at me. I voted for Kodos. That's the classic line from The Simpsons. Abortions for no one. Boo! Abortions for everyone. Boo! Abortions for some, small American flags for others. Yay! Okay. Super sticker. This is all because of the Hadron Collider. Lol. There's a lot of people who actually believe that. Oh my goodness. There was an article that said it could create the Hadron Collider is that thing where they're shooting protons or electrons or atoms around the collider in whatever country that's in. There was a discussion as to whether or not it could create a small black hole. Not big enough to swallow up the universe, just a small black hole. Okay, the world can't get any crazier, and yet it does every day of the week. Fauci, the Fauci ouchie, he had better get ready to be thrown under the political bus, because whether or not he knows that it's going to happen, by the looks of things, it's going to happen. People, it went from safe and effective, shut up, take it, you selfish bastard, you want Granny to die, to Trump's disaster. It went from that to that faster than it went from trans women are women to no uterus, no opinion. And the irony is people were saying, well, they were complaining about Trump's vaccine at the beginning. It's just gone full circle. The irony is that the no opinion, no uterus, no opinion has been around for a long time. That distinction was set aside when, you know, the issue of the day, the avatar of the day became, there's absolutely no difference between trans women and biological women, to the point where you have Eli Ehrlich tweeting, there's no biological difference, there's no natural difference, there's no difference, trans women are women. Then Roe versus Wade gets overturned, and then it becomes no uterus, shut your mouth. It even goes so far as if you're an old woman who's not able to bear children anymore, you need to move over and make room also. So the same consistency or lack thereof of logic we're witnessing in real time right now. They're going to blame adverse effects on Trump. This Fauci ouchie juicy goosey is going to go from WHO, you get booted from social media if you say the slightest thing bad about it, to it was poison and it's Trump's fault. Of course, it started off that way too. Everyone had the sound bites of Kamala Harris. Who's going to trust the Trump vaccine? Well, I won't take it. He's just doing it for political points. Then it became uncontradictable. It became sacrilege to question it, to suggest anything, to the point where people who did suffer certain things had to shut up about it. You know, public shaming and cancellation. Full circle. Full circle. That, Michigan, Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer, they got the conviction. They got the conviction. The judge did his job. And by the way, remember that whole thing about a rogue juror who might have made it onto the jury with the hell-bent intention of making sure the conviction went conviction? Case closed on that. Call it, wrap it up, done for the day. And then some other crap that we're going to talk about. Oh, let's just see here. Small black hole just big enough to swallow all sanity. Now, I think I just missed. So standard disclaimers, people. Super chats. YouTube takes 30% of all super chats. If you do not like that, and I can understand why some people wouldn't, simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble has the Rumble equivalent called Rumble Rants. Rumble takes 20%. Better for the creator, better to support a platform that actually, respects free speech. No election fornication advice, no medical advice, no vaccination advice, no shumalan chumaladan advice. But we're going to talk about things. How is everybody doing on this wonderful, sunny, it's Wednesday. I have no idea what day of the week it is. I have no idea what time it is. All that I'm happy is that I got this stream scheduled in time and started in time. I did the early, exclusive on locals at 11 o'clock this morning. Those who are following Robert and I, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, saw that. What do we start with? You know what? We're going to have to start with something that wasn't on the menu. And speaking of, what am I doing here? Joe Biden is there's forgiving certain student debt, $10,000 depending on the income of the individuals. It's good news. It's good news. It's good news for some. It's not good news for others, those who have already paid their student debts. And when confronted on the issue about this, Elizabeth Warren had something very interesting to say. Let's just hear what Elizabeth Warren had to say about this. They're forgiving student debt for those who now currently have a certain amount of outstanding student debt, who make below a certain amount. Someone had asked Elizabeth Warren, what about people who already paid off their student debt? Are they going to get anything back? Give her credit. It might be the first time in her life she didn't lie. Listen to this.
I was hoping to teach a question. Yeah. I'm not here. I haven't heard.
The man is waiting patiently on the right to ask Elizabeth Warren a question. He's building up the energy. He can feel his heart pounding in his chest, because even if he is excited to do this, wants to do it, and even if he's done it 100 times before, he's nervous.
Yep.
I just want to ask one question. My daughter's getting out of school. I saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back?
My daughter's out of school. I saved all my money, something along those lines. Am I going to get my money back?
So you're going to pay. My daughter's getting out of school. I saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back?
God bless you, she just said to him before that. I saved my money, paid off my daughter's student debt.
My daughter's getting out of school. I saved all my money. She doesn't have any student loans. Am I going to get my money back? So you're going to pay for people who didn't save any money, and those of us that did the right thing get screwed.
No, it's not even got screwed. When we
Of
started,
course we did. My buddy had fun, bought a car, went on vacations. I saved my money. He made more than I did. But I worked a double shift, worked extra. My daughter's worksheet is 10. So you're laughing. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. We did the right thing, and we get screwed.
I appreciate it.
That's all right.
It goes from God bless you to piss off real fast. I say, am I going to get my money back? Of course not. The government already has your money. They know you've got more because you're the one who paid it off already. The government is begrudgingly gives back money that they've already taken. And now they're going to forgive some student loan. And of course, you're not getting your money back, dummy. That's your punishment for paying your bills on time. That's your punishment for getting a degree that might provide a reasonable salary afterwards to pay off your loans. But, the people who study degrees, which cost a lot of money, don't pay a lot, i.e., the individual who wants to become a teacher but wants to drive a Lamborghini, their tardiness, their life decisions will get rewarded. Whereas another person's responsibility will get penalized. My parents made no more than $75,000 when I was in college. They paid my $10,000 a year bill. Where's their cut? Now, there is no, and not just that. Like, you know, I can tell you about people I've known who have incurred massive debt for MBAs, for professional degrees, which pay a lot afterwards, and so therefore, you know, they've incurred a lot of debt. But it's a cost-benefit analysis. Incurring a debt for a high salary when you graduate allows you to pay off the debt quicker. Incurring a high debt, I don't want to use any stereotypical examples, but you know, incurring high debt for a degree that doesn't pay anything off at the end because you want to study it, that's a life decision that typically, you know, when children become adults, they live with the consequences of their own decisions. You want to pay a lot of money to study something for your own self-edification, for your own pleasure, and then you expect other people to foot the bill for what you've decided to do for yourself, which was not an economical decision. Okay, that, and you know, from what I understand, the idea that there are not cost-effective options out there, you know, might be something of the straw man of this, where it's not just a question of saying, I want my debt to be paid off. It's that I want to go to certain institutions as opposed to others, incur substantial debt as opposed to going to more cost-effective solutions. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. But, you know, American politics and the public discourse being what it is, there's always an angle to this where it's not even enough. It's not even enough, and there's still systemic racism involved. I don't know who Nina Turner is, and it's funny, like things just pop up in your feed, and then you interact, and they pop up more often. Nina Turner, Unbossed with Nina Turner, educator, activist, senior fellow at Race Power Policy, former Ohio State senator and professor, host of Unbossed on the Young Turks. That might explain something. Canceling $10,000 in student, it's not enough, by the way. Just someone's going to pay for that. You're not canceling it. You're shifting it. It's not canceled, it's shifted. So let's rephrase that. Shifting $10,000 in student debt to somebody else who's got to pay for it. When the average white borrower is $12,000 in debt, while black women hold an average of $52,000, isn't just unacceptable, it's structural racism. Okay. Let's just set aside the conclusion of this tweet. The premise, the factual premise, sounded bizarre to me. Again, Investopedia might not be the best source, but I pulled up a few just to make sure that, you know, they're all roughly the same. This is what I found. Now, it's based on 2017 data released in 2021, so I presume that there's a lag in releasing the data, so we're working off the most recent data regardless. Average student loan debt by gender and race. So yes, it's true. It appears black women have $37,000 in debt on average, because I came across other statistics which broke it down by bracket of debt, it makes it very complicated to try to understand what's going on. You know, but nonetheless, we're talking averages here, and we're just talking fact checking the factual statement to see if it's factually correct. Now I just took my window out here. $37,558 for black women, $35,000 for black men. White women, $31,000. So there's a a little over $6,000 differential between black women and white women, and a $6,000 differential between black men and white men. Then we get into Hispanic Latino, $27,000. Interesting. It is interesting. Hispanic men incur more debt, and Asian men incur more debt for marginally, but nonetheless, at least they appear to be more equal. It's very interesting. And you know, it would be interesting to understand the difference, the disparity in white and black men versus women versus Hispanics being and Asians being roughly the same. But factual statement is what we're after here. Is the white borrower $12,000 in debt? No. In fact, it seems, based on this statistic, and there might be a number of reasons why, it might have to do with scholarships, I don't know, that Hispanics and Asians are the least indebted. So that's the factual statement. So already we got a problem on the facts. It doesn't look like it's average. The average white borrower is $12,000 in debt. unless the argument's going to be a very twisted one where you're going to say, well, which bracket of each race has the highest amount in that bracket? But even the breakdowns were, there was a bigger disparity in the highest end of the indebtedness on racial lines, but not that much. So the factual statement is incorrect. Black men and women have more debt, it would seem, than all other races. But Hispanics and Asians have the least amount of debt, which would mean that they should have lesser loans forgiven, or they should be not forgiven their loans because they're not as much in debt as others, which seems racist to me. Arguing that there should be differential treatment based on racial lines seems racist. I don't know. I don't even like seeing the world this way because I don't see the world this way until I'm forced to fact check. But it seems that there's a problem with the facts and the conclusions on this particular tweet. Now, admittedly, it seems by the responses, a lot of people are noticing the inconsistency. It's worthy of being noted nonetheless. But bottom line, Joe Biden, how many months now? August, September, October, November. We're less than 3 months to a midterm. Announcing freebie handouts. Some cynical people might think it has to do with buying a vote. Some people. Now the question is going to be this: who's this going to buy a vote with? Bloomberg Texas wealthiest school article ties nice. Who's this going to score points with? The students who get the $10,000 forgiveness, for sure. Everyone else? Not if they have a basic understanding of economics. What this has effectively done is penalize people who are responsible, penalize people who made responsible decisions, then govern themselves accordingly based on those decisions, and every other taxpayer that's going to have to foot this bill, because you're not canceling jack squat. You are transferring it onto others who are now going to be forced to pay for the life decisions of others. I'm not thinking in particular of Robert Reich, who's calling DeSantis a fascist. He couldn't think 2 steps ahead to say the man with the last name Reich might not be best suited to call DeSantis a fascist, just from a humorous point of view. Robert Reich I think he's a professor at Berkeley, gets paid $300,000 a year. Is a proponent of canceling student debt, but not his own salary. He basically just wants other taxpayers to pay his salary. Women get more benefits, i.e. free childcare, tax rates, etc., for staying in college for 10 to 12 years. So what does that have to do with, does that impact debt? Or is the argument going to be that there are taxable benefits that don't factor into the debt that nonetheless should factor into the calculation of debt? Interesting. In case anybody didn't get the reference, Robert Reich on Twitter said, "Is DeSantis' name a synonym for fascism yet?" And got rightly roasted for being an idiot. John Ritterhorf says government subsidies towards public universities have driven the cost of college through the roof. No incentive for universities to keep the same cost or lower it, since government is there to fill the coffers. The lending institutions lose nothing. So it feels like the same problem as with the healthcare system in the States and insurance. It feels like the same problem, but I know the limits of my own understanding, and I get bored quickly when it comes to those types of issues. Remember, this is doubly stupid as government owns the majority of the student debt. Well, it's not doubly stupid. It might explain the 87,000 new, some armed IRS agents who are going to need to fill this gap in the government coffers somehow. It's like the money doesn't disappear, the debt doesn't disappear, and it's going to come from somewhere, whether you like it or not. Weird, Viva, you are actually shorter in HD. Yeah. And you can see, I've been noticing the bags under my eyes. Let me see here. Yeah, okay. 5'6" people. 5'6". And who was it that was accusing? Oh, it doesn't matter. The infuriating part is those who did the right thing are paying twice. Absolute bull. Absolutely true. So that's the news of the day with idiocy. But free handouts, and then it's not enough. And nothing is free unless you're the product. Free handouts, rewarding arguably the people who made the wrong decisions or the uneconomical decisions and did not make the responsible choices of behavior. And it's still not enough. And it's still racist, according to some. The solution of which is unfathomably racist, but what do I know? And you know, the funny thing is, like, I studied in Quebec. Quebec has a lot of public universities. I could have gone to University of Toronto. Well, maybe I couldn't have because I don't think I got in for law school, but the option was there to go to University of Toronto, which cost, $10,000 Canadian a semester back in 2000. It cost a lot. McGill for out-of-province students was expensive. McGill for in-province students, same university, wasn't. I could have gone to a Toronto university for my undergrad, spent 7 times as much, not lived with my parents, but I didn't. I went to McGill as an in-state student, in-province student. I think it was like $2,000, $3,000 a semester at most. Whereas, I wanted to go to University of British Columbia, cost would have been different. Then I went to Université Laval in Quebec City, $1,800 a semester for law school, plus living expenses, yada, yada. Whereas, I could have gone in theory to another university, which would have cost much more, probably still would have been able to pay off any debt regardless. And I understand, as far as I understand, and maybe I'm wrong, there are cost-effective solutions in the States, but it might involve going to, and I say this with full respect to Université Laval because it's a great university, it might involve going to Université Laval and not a University of Toronto or Osgoode Law School. Maybe. Maybe it doesn't look as good on a resume. Still got out, still got a job in my first year, which would have been more than enough to pay for reasonable student debt. Nothing in this world is more expensive than free. Nice, Roberto. That's good, actually. So as far as I understand, there are similar options in the United States. It's just that people want to study degrees that will give them fulfillment. Religious studies, cosmetology. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. I studied philosophy knowing that it was a useless degree from a professional perspective and that I wasn't going to go get a job as a philosophizer to pay off that degree. That was an investment into a further degree that actually would pay the bills. Okay. Anyhow, that's it. It's buy gold or silver. Oh, hold on. Do I do? Yeah. I'll, tomorrow, I didn't put paid sponsor in this video, so I can't turn it into one. Yeah. Gold or silver. I still like silver because you can get more of it and feel better. Like you can hold silver. You could get old silver dollars and play poker with them and it'll make you feel rich, but it's not gold. Yeah, dude, $1,800 a semester for law school. I paid $21,000 a year for law school. I paid $1,800 a semester Canadian. 2 semesters. I had to rent an apartment, Quebec City. Not exactly the fanciest real estate in Canada. I was paying $600 for an apartment, lived alone. Didn't have a car. I worked every summer. And but we might have a bit of a better system because even perhaps the affordable options in the States are still expensive. But yeah, anyhow. Let's get into the craziness, people. Which one do we want to start with? Oh, you know what? We're gonna one Canadian thing, just so I can politically needle Jagmeet Singh. Y'all remember Jagmeet Singh, people? Came out yesterday and said, what's his name? Pierre Poilievre, running for the leadership of the Conservative Party. You shook hands with Diagolon leader Jeremy McKenzie. You may not have known who he was then, but you know now. Will you condemn Diagolon? If anybody hasn't seen the interview I did yesterday with Jeremy McKenzie, watch it. It was good. Will you condemn him? I'm not going to let Jagmeet Singh forget about this anytime soon. So I'm just going to continually Twitter needle, like the Twitter needle of reality. Hey, Jagmeet, are you going to call out your leader? Just because remember, he's supporting. He's not just shaking hands en passant with somebody at an event. He is actively supporting. Hey, Jagmeet Singh, you are not just shaking Justin Trudeau's hand. You are holding him up. You're washing his feet. You are doing his dirty laundry. You're carrying his water. You're not just shaking the hands of a passerby at a political event. You are supporting this man. Are you going to call out your leader, Justin Trudeau, for this intimate photo he took with a convicted, big capital P? Or do you not want to rock the boat of your coalition government with degenerate Trudeau? That's right, I said it. Please let us know, you egregious hypocrite opportunist. And in case this is the picture, people. Like, this is not a handshake at a political event. This is close enough to smell each other. God, you got people. This is now maybe in fairness, it was just as en passant, in passing, as maybe it was. Maybe. I'm not sure. And then for anybody who doesn't know who this individual is, I had to Google it. You can read this. I know, but maybe it was just as en passant. It was at an event. Trudeau had no idea who this individual was. Oh yeah, there you go. Let me read it in Jagmeet Singh's voice. Maybe Mr. I can't do it. Didn't know who he was shaking hands with, but now he does. Will he denounce Jeremy Mackenzie and Diagolon, designated as violent extremists by Canada's integrated terrorism assessment, or will he continue to wink at white supremacy? Hey, Jagmeet, you're doing a lot more than winking at Potatophilia by continuing to support the man. But these are your rules, Jagmeet. These are not mine. These are your rules. And by your own rules, you're not just winking at Potatophilia. You are dancing in the dark. What is it? You are dancing in the midnight thing of the... What did the Joker say in Batman? You are dancing with the devil in the moonlight, Jagmeet. And let's just go and... by the way, just pulling this up because it's like... It's only in hindsight that life can make sense. Trudeau and friends from the Toronto Sun. There's Justin Trudeau with Kevin Spacey. And man, Bono's getting nailed by association there. Oh, there were more. Where are the pictures? Here. That's Kevin Spacey. He's been in the news recently. That's the convicted potato-phile. He's been in the news recently. That guy, I need the description for these because some of these people I don't know offhand. All this to say, that's who is that? Trudeau and his rogues gallery. Just a little bit, you know. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. Jagmeet, have you called on the leader that you are supporting politically in a coalition government for the next 3 years? Have you called on him to condemn the most heinous things humanity has to offer? I don't know who some of these people are, so I don't want to say anything that's not accurate. You're going to do it, Jagmeet? Challenges. It was Fidel Castro. Okay, that's what it looked like. But his death. Hey, Jagmeet, are you going to do it, or are you even guiltier than Pierre Poilievre? Potato-phile. I came up with that one in when I was doing the breakdown of Elon Musk calling the guy in the Thai cave rescue thing, called him the P word. I worked so hard on the video. I edit that video, cut it together, splice it, publish it. Demonetized because I used the big P word in it. It's like that. Oh yeah, of course. No, because of course that's not advertiser friendly. So potato-phile. That became the here. Surprised they could find pics of Trudeau. It's just egregious hypocrisy. Thy name is just Jagmeet Singh. When you dance with the devil doesn't change. The devil changes you. Staring into the abyss stares back. So I will not soon let Jagmeet Singh forget that. And it'll be like the daily reminder. Just, daily reminder, Jagmeet Singh, you're a divisive hypocrite. And you are supporting someone who is exponentially guiltier. It's not just that, Justin Trudeau has 2 ethics breaches confirmed by the Mario Dion, the ethics commissioner. It's not just that it's scandal-ridden through and through. He's shaking hands with potato-philes and convicted schmerrists, and and you haven't asked him. Not only have you not asked him to denounce that, you support him actively. You support his continued reign of Canada. You, Jagmeet. You should be proud. Oh, this was the Investopedia article. We don't need that. So, Jagmeet, people don't forget, and even if they're prone to forgetting, I won't let them. Okay, Whitmer, people. Oh, may I take this opportunity to remind everyone to subscribe to Viva Clips for the shorter stuff. If anyone's so inclined to go to support it, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Yada yada yada. You know the shtick. Okay, what do we got here? Yeah. We're gonna go to Whitmer first. Here we go. They got their conviction, people. It feels like I talked about this already because I talked about it exclusively at Wednesday with Viva. Wednesday with Viva today. They got their conviction. So now the FBI can say face. It wasn't entrapment, but it was entrapment for 2, but not for the other 2. You know, let me take this out for 1 second. Preliminary statements. In law, there's a reason why courts tend to want to avoid multiplication of proceedings and simultaneous but not merged. What's the word? Not joined lawsuits. And the risk is that you end up with diverging and mutually inconsistent and incompatible judgments. So 2 co-defendants charged with, the same acts. If you have trials separately, the risk is that you might have a conviction in one and an acquittal in the other, which might not make any sense. From a civil perspective, if you just imagine 2 parties to a contract and you separate the trials for 2 separate parties, and in one trial, based on the same contract, you come to damages, and in the other one, you come to no damages. It's tough to reconcile mutually incompatible outcomes that are based on similar, if not identical, fact patterns. That's one of the other names there. Chris Ingvaldson, look him up. I've looked him up already, but I'll leave this up for other people to go look. So one of the reasons why you don't want to have 2 separate trials, splitting trials of similar fact pattern co-defendants, is because that might happen. In the Whitmer case now, and what shocks me is that people don't even appreciate this, based on some comments to Twitter, and I'm not saying this with judgment to the people. There are people who don't understand that this is a retrial. So I post, convicted, whereas others were acquitted, and people are like, what are you talking about? Is this a new trial or a retrial of some defendants, or is this just the trial? People don't know, because the media didn't really jump on the story, that 2 of these 4 defendants were previously acquitted, but there was a hung jury on 2 of the same 4 defendants, all of whom stood trial at the same time. The 2 defendants for whom there was a hung jury, and apparently, if Robert Barnes is right, it was one of the 12 jurors was hell-bent on a conviction, hung jury, they get retried. Basically retried on the same facts, the same allegations, the same fact pattern. Except the judge was a little different this time around in terms of length of cross-examinations, scope, object of cross-examinations, arguably gave different instructions in the soliloquy, the jury instructions, limited some of the considerations for the jury. And there was this little pesky problem of a potential runaway juror, rogue juror, which was in the news for a bit when people thought it might be a problem. Now they've got a conviction, not so much. So they had a retrial for 2 of the defendants that were not acquitted outright in the first trial, whereas the other 2 were acquitted, having invoked entrapment. Now, conceptually, it is possible, steelman, even a position that I'm not thoroughly convinced by, it's conceptually possible that the facts were a little bit different for 2 of the 4 defendants, and 2 of the 4 defendants were in fact entrapped, but for FBI active instigation, they would have never done it. And it's not as true for the other 2. So maybe there's that. But the FBI got its conviction, and now what was otherwise the biggest proverbial black eye to the FBI on entrapment in recent memory, now everybody can save face because most people were not aware of the acquittal in the first place, and the media sure as heck is not going to bring that up now. The Washington Compost. Why do I bring up the Washington Compost? It's as important as possible to get the most biased analysis of this, so we can know what they're saying. 2 men convicted of plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. A Michigan jury deadlocked over the roles of Adam Fox and Barry Croft in April. Deadlocked makes it sound like it might have been 6-6, 7. Deadlock sounds a lot more unevenly spread than what it appears to be, which was almost virtually unanimous acquittal with a holdout, potentially. Remind me about double jeopardy at the end of this, and we'll talk about that. In retrial, prosecutors won a conviction. It's like, it's a game. It's not about justice. It's not about anything else other than winning the conviction to save face. A federal jury on Tuesday convicted 2 men of plotting to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, D, in 2020. A case that raised alarms about the possibility of politically motivated violence. Isn't it funny we're seeing the same terminology everywhere? Politically motivated violence in the States. Ideologically motivated violent extremism out of Canada. All of which is being weaponized the same way. In the era of Donald Trump, and served as a precursor to the January 6th insurrection. They're still going with it. That took place months later. By the way, some of the evidence that came out in this trial, the FBI told state law enforcement to let in armed protesters to the state capitol when they were protesting the lockdown measures. FBI pressured state police to let in armed protesters into the state capitol. And then this funny thing, January 6th, happened a little while later. In one of the highest profile domestic terrorism cases in recent memory, it was high profile. So high profile that when they got the acquittal based on entrapment of the other two, nobody mentioned it. Prosecutors cast Barry Croft Jr. and Adam Fox as violent anti-government extremists who planned to capture Whitmer at her vacation home in northern Michigan, detonate a bridge to disrupt responding police officers. Where were they going to get those explosives? Well, the FBI and the informants were the ones telling them they could get it. And in the process, ignite a civil war ahead of the 2020 presidential election. They wanted to set off a second American Civil War and a second American Revolution, something they called Boogaloo. It's very interesting. Like, all of this language is exactly what we hear the Canadian government invoking when talking about Diagolon. It's like it's the same playbook. Now, it may be more justified here than with Diagolon. It may be, look, they got the conviction. The court system is what it is, and you have to live with it, despite the fact that you know how it works and what is done, arguably, to rig the system. Arguably. We saw it with Alex Jones. The verdicts came against the politically charged backdrop of a deeply divided America, where politicians, including Whitmer, say they continue to face threats from extremists. The jury in Grand Rapids, Michigan, deliberated for 8 hours over 2 days before convicting Croft. Conspiracy? Yeah. And, sorry, that's important. One related to the kidnapping scheme and another to obtain and use a weapon of mass destruction. These defendants had no money to buy these weapons of mass destruction. The informants were offering credit cards to the defendants, $5,000 credit cards, to buy weapons, arms, and guns. Because one of the defendants lived in a basement of a vacuum shop, had to go to a local restaurant to wash his hands and brush his teeth. But they were going to obtain weapons of mass destruction with money that was being offered to them and declined by the FBI informants. Croft was also convicted on another explosives charge and then faced up to life in prison. The decision was a vindication for the Justice Department. You know, when ego comes into play, when people are desperate, it becomes a question of vindication and not actual justice. And not to say that I've said it before, these individuals could be very unsavory characters. The question is, at what point does it become entrapment versus foiling a plot? And it was clear enough for 2 of the 4 last trial. This time, they picked a better jury. A different jury in April couldn't reach a unanimous decision on Croft and Fox, but acquitted 2 others, alleged co-conspirators, a result that led to a second trial this time. They acquitted them on the defense of entrapment. One is going to be hard-pressed to say 2 of the 4 were entrapped and the other 2 of the 4 were not entrapped. The outcome shocked some observers. It shocked observers who did not follow the trial, including Whitmer, who later called the acquittal and mistrial awful. That the jury's decision left her questioning her life's worth. Whitmer said the way the case had been described as a kidnapping rather than an assassination plot had muted the seriousness of it. No one muted the seriousness of it. Everyone took it very seriously. And then the evidence came out. So let's just see this. I mean, we don't need to go through the rest of this. Federal and state officials originally charged multiple people in the plot against Whitmer, arresting the men in October 2020 sting that involved the use of informants and other undercover agents. It involved the use of more informants and more undercover agents actively involved in all aspects: training, financing, logistics, travel, More of those than actual defendants. The officers embedded with the men, who were associates of a militia group known as the Wolverine Watchmen. Okay, let's see here. Okay, well, that seems to be it. I mean, here, let's see this here. 10 others accused in the plot were indicted. Jurors in the earlier federal trial seemed to agree, at least in part, with defense lawyers' arguments that FBI agents entrapped the men in the violent plot, pointing to how one of the undercover federal operatives offered explosives to them. Oh, he offered explosives to them, and they were acquitted for defensive entrapment. He offered explosive to these dudes, convicted after a hung jury. Attorneys Croft and Fox renewed those arguments in the second trial, casting their clients as nothing more than big talkers who would have done nothing had they not been spurred on by undercover FBI agents. Undercover FBI agents who smoked drugs with them, recorded conversations while these individuals were under the influence, and then used those surreptitiously recorded drug-induced conversations and fantasies to convict them. Nothing to see here. I mean, this is how the system has to work. The defense attorneys called attention to text messages from investigations that referred to the men as morons and claimed their clients said outrageous things because they regularly smoked pot. The attorneys said their clients would have been incapable of doing the things that they were charged with. And this was one of the questions the jury asked the judge. Even if we conclude it was impossible for them to do what they were allegedly plotting to do, can we still convict? In America, the FBI is not supposed to create domestic terrorists so that the FBI can arrest them. Christopher Gibbons, an attorney for Fox, told the jury. The FBI isn't supposed to create a conspiracy so the FBI can stand up and claim a disruption. It's a good argument. These defendants believed their anti-government views justified violence. Special agent who works at the FBI. Today's verdict sends a clear message that they were wrong in their assessment. Violence is never the answer. I think we can agree on that. Violence is obviously never the answer. And even talking about violence is oftentimes very, very damaging to any legitimate purposes. The FBI will continue to investigate anyone who seeks to engage in violence in furtherance of any ideological cause and hold them accountable. A previous version of this article misstated the location of Whitmer's home. It is in Elk Rapids. Thanks for telling us, idiots. So that's the outcome. Now, apparently, there is going to be good grounds for appeal, I presume. We'll talk about it with Barnes a little later. Take it up. Violence, stay away from that. SHIT, poop emoji. Agreed. Why? I'll say it often and I'll say it loud. I happen to think it's immoral, except under the most necessary circumstances of immediate self-preservation. And more important than that, absolutely counterproductive. Well done. Well done. This is the fodder that everybody wanted in order to go politically persecute, politically silence, and suppress critique. This is what they want. That's how it gets weaponized everywhere. It's almost like harebrained schemes that never had a chance of succeeding, that were egged on by entities that then weaponized the plans that they foiled that might have never existed but for them. But they weaponize it. They weaponize it to suppress critique, because critique might make people angry and might make them do stupid things. So we better suppress the critique. That's what it is. But let's not forget about the rogue juror, people. Just get my phone, see if there's anything on. Let's not forget about the rogue juror, because there was a rogue juror that was a concern for a while, but no more. Oh, then we're going to get to the frickin' Ouchie, Fauci, Gouchie. Just put my. I don't want to put my phone between my legs because I think that's. I've had my kids already, but I was told by someone who worked in as an engineer for cellular phones, keep it away from your head and your schmeckle. Okay, here we go. They unsealed the documents about this rogue juror. Don't forget about it, because people will forget about it. Once upon a time, there was a big issue with a rogue juror. What happened here? What did I just do? Oh, darn it. Refresh. What did I just do? That's not what I want. Okay, here we go. Judge unseals documents about the alleged rogue juror in Whitmer kidnap trial. Julie Kelly has been covering this from the beginning. It was the big story at the beginning of the trial. When they were in jury selection, very important. They wanted to get the proper jury to secure a conviction, to win the conviction. Hours after a federal jury convicted 2 men of plotting to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the judge unsealed court documents about a potential rogue juror who raised red flags for the defense. Get out of there, please, Detroit Free Press. Okay. According to the unsealed filing, the defense asked the judge in the first week of the trial to dismiss the juror after learning that the person had allegedly told coworkers that if picked to be on the jury, he would make sure that the defendants were found guilty. Is this the lone holdup from the first trial? I'm joking. The alleged lone juror. I do not know if there was only one juror who was seeking a conviction and the 11 others said no. U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker, however, denied the defense's request to dismiss the juror after interviewing the person, concluding the person was not biased nor dishonest. I love those drawings. How the juror allegation played out, the court is eminently satisfied that the present record does not provide a basis for removing the subject juror for bias. If and when this juror's name is ever released, if I had to guess who would get the more accurate research, due diligence on this juror, the judge, any judge, not this judge, any judge, or the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs, I'm betting $1,000 on the aggregate knowledge of the interwebs every day of the week and twice on Sunday. During the interview, the court squarely presented the report of the subject juror's alleged statements. The juror repeatedly and consistently denied making any such statements. Based on the court's observation of the juror's demeanor and behavior, these responses were credible. They are also consistent with the juror's statement during voir dire. I don't know if we're ever going to get the jurors' names. Not for any purposes of malicious doxing or harassment, public due diligence to see if they made any statements that might otherwise disqualify them as being biased. That juror could put aside any preconceived views and decide the case based on the merits, yada, yada, yada. Attorneys for the defendants, Adam Fox, however, did not like how it all panned out. According to the judge's unsealed order, here is what went down on the second day of trial after the jury had already been seated. Oh, this is fantastic. 1 day after jury selection, after both sides had given opening statements, the lawyer for the defendant alerted court staff of potential misconduct. Okay, we were there. No other information was given at the time. Defense attorney Joshua Blanchard noted that the court may want to deal with the issue in a non-public way. Next day, Blanchard disclosed to the judge that his office had received more information about the juror from one of the juror's co-workers. Okay. According to the report, the subject juror expressed a strong opinion in the defendant's guilt and indicated that if chosen, he would make sure he would be found guilty. Okay. The tip wasn't firsthand information. The judge wrote that initially he interpreted the tip as coming from an individual reporting a direct firsthand conversation, though he would later learn that this was all a secondhand report. It would needlessly waste the time of the jury. Okay, yada, yada, yada. Defense objected to the judge's approach. I think that's all we need to know. Judge wrote in his order that the juror did not have any impact on the other jurors. Okay. A likely factor in appeals. The role of the potentially problematic juror is likely to play into the appellate process. The defense said it will most certainly appeal the verdicts, noting several controversies during the trial. Here we go. This juror was just one of them, though Jonker stressed in his order that the juror at issue showed no bias towards one party or another. Great. The juror's behavior in the jury box is entirely inconsistent with someone who has made a predetermined decision to define the defendants guilty. Yeah. Moreover, Jonker noted that his okay, fine. Okay, whatever. We'll find out what the appeals are later. But no, no problem with the juror, so that's fine. Okay. Parentheses. I understand why Robert says retrials violate the principle of double jeopardy. The criminal justice system is based on guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a stringent system because you are depriving people of life and liberty and life sometimes. The idea that they had a trial and the prosecution could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a manner to convince a jury to convict. The fact that it's a hung jury, that there might have been 1, 2, 3, even 6 who felt that they were guilty, but 11, 10, 9, even one that felt that they were not. That's where it should end. You get one kick at the can to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. I know that's not the system, but you appreciate now why this should be the system. If it wasn't the system in essence to begin with, you get one kick at the can. It's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If you can't prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt with one batch of jury of your peers, why would you get a second kick at the can without that constituting some form of double jeopardy? I'm having trouble understanding it, digesting it, or putting it together, because it seems like a clear violation of the rules of double jeopardy. You had it. Jury was impaneled. Prosecution had the obligation to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They didn't. So let's go shuffle around, try to find another jury, try to deal with the evidence a little bit differently, try to select a jury so they'll be more amenable to a conviction. It's not how the system should work. So, okay, I see someone in the chat again. So that's it. That's the latest with the Whitmer. There'll be an appeal, and now someone's telling me, by the way, on Twitter, I was wrong. First of all, I will never be wrong in the Whitmer case because 2 of the 4 defendants were acquitted on entrapment. I might turn out to be wrong on my prediction of this case, although I was getting a little, not skeptical. I was beginning to believe that they were going to get convicted, especially if the jury were not entitled to know, or if arguments weren't made about the prior acquittals. So at this point in time, it's a process. My prediction, I'm not even sure what my prediction was on these 2 being acquitted or convicted, but we'll see how it pans out in appeal. But nothing's going to change my assessment leading up to this. Conviction or no conviction, I was up to speed with that evidence. And if you have to frame guilty people, you're doing it wrong. If you have to get people who would otherwise be guilty and induce them to do something illegal, but they would have otherwise done something criminal, you're doing it wrong. And that's not how it should be working. We will keep trying until we get the judgment we desire. Yeah, anyways, we'll see. I actually, now that I speak out loud about it, I'm curious. I would like to know how it is that a hung jury, you get to just keep doing it until you no longer have a hung jury. Should be conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. If not, that's where it should end. Okay, let's see here. Did I have any? No, I didn't. So that's the Whitmer latest updates. FBI smoking weed, sharing beds, recording drug-induced imaginings, offering money, promising logistics, providing training, transport, finances. Yeah, they got him. They got people who I'm not saying vulnerable in the sympathetic sense. I'm saying vulnerable as in the easily manipulated sense. Dude living in a basement of a vacuum shop, brushing his teeth at a local restaurant. No money. Offered money. Women. Probably provided drugs. They got the criminals. Okay. All that also to say, people, if people are offering you drugs, money, women to commit crimes, that should be big red flags, people. That should be the time when you pull what everyone pulled when Ray Epps was out there telling people to storm the Capitol. That's when you should probably be chanting feds, 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 and get the hell out of Dodge. That's what you should probably be saying that to yourself. Let's see here. I see some chat. The men were disabled and asked his mom to go. This didn't need to be argued. Okay, I'm not. I think they were referred to by names which you can't repeat without getting canceled. So I won't do that in terms of assessing their intelligence. Okay, that's Michigan. Now, no. What was this? Hold on a second. This. Oh yeah, no, that's my actual Twitter feed. I'm going to close that. Okay, that was not the one we wanted to get. Fauci announced his resignation effective December. Some people already thought the timing of that was curious because many people are expecting a red wave. Many people are expecting Republicans or the GOP to retake control of the House and the Senate, I think, if I'm not mixing up my terms. So some people thought, oh, Fauci wants to get out before the heat comes down, but that won't do anything. And you've got my dog. What are you doing? Stop. You got people, advancce warning, Fauci, keep your emails, keep your calendar free, enjoy your retirement, but you might be testifying. You got some people are hypothesizing Fauci announcing his retirement before there's a change in control of the government, which might put Fauci under the political limelight. That's one way of looking at it. Then today, by the way, Politico publishes this. Is it today? What day is it? Yes, August 24th, this morning. That's a chiseled man right there. Trump, this is from Politico, made in Canada. Everyone sees that ad. Trump White House exerted pressure on FDA for COVID-19 emergency use authorizations, House report finds. Well, I'm sorry. What timeline are we in right now exactly? Trump White House exerted pressure on FDA for COVID-19 EUA. Isn't this the same EUA that we just saw Albert Bourla talking about to get FDA approval for their Fauci Ouchie for 5 to 11-year-olds? I'll pull that tweet up a little later. I didn't make that connection yet. But the argument here, the suggestion in the headline, and don't worry, we're going to get into the body, is that Trump put pressure on the FDA for EUA to approve of the Rona Fauci Ouchie juice jabby gabby. House report finds. The report by House Democrats, so superficial in the depth that they analyze things. They don't know what they're getting at here. Or by the time they find out, they are going to appreciate the lunacy and the idiocy of what they're getting at. I'll get there. The House report by House Democrats examining the pandemic, says Trump officials sought vaccine approvals to sway voters before the 2020 election. Let me just put this on pause for a second. Are they suggesting something nefarious, something negative about the Fauci Ouchie? I feel like I've stolen Alex Stein's Fauci Ouchie. I like it. I like it better than Fauci juice because Fauci juice has a really gross connotation. Is Politico now contradicting WHO on vaccines as relates to them being safe and effective? Isn't this a bannable offense under the guise of medical misinformation? Or is it okay now that they're going to blame it on Trump? Remember, people, once upon a time, you had your Kamala Harris and you had your Dem politicians saying, I'm not going to trust a Trump Fauci juice. I'm not going to trust I wouldn't you take it first. Trump is literally Schmittler reincarnated. He wants to schmill everybody. I'm not going to trust it. You're going to be the first. There was a montage of it put together. Then there was a change in office. Then it became Biden's, achievement. He took credit for it. And then it became, you're an anti-science bigot if you don't want to take the vaccine because it's science. Trust the science. And now it seems we've gone so full circle. We've got Politico, or the House Democrats, I should say, Politico reporting on the House Democrats, suggesting that there was some nefarious influence to get this approval, for political purposes. The Trump administration, there's not much in here on the allegations yet, but it'll come out soon. But the narrative is changing in real time, where it went from trust the science, get the jab, you anti-science, anti-vaxxer bigot, to it's Trump's poison juice. And my joke is it transitioned more quickly than it transitioned from trans women are women in all respects to no uterus, no opinion. And people, I say some people at the very least, don't understand the absolute insane hypocrisy in this. There is no way of reconciling this shift. There is no way of reconciling this double standard. Anti-vaxxers don't trust the science, do it for grandma, and now he pressured the FDA for approval for political purposes, and the underlying supposition is quite clearly there's a problem here. There's no way of reconciling that. You cannot spend the last 2.5 years browbeating people into trusting the science, taking the Fauci Ouchie juice, failing which they're going to lose their jobs, whatever, and then turn around overnight and say it's Trump's fault. Any more than you can turn around, you could say trans women are women, indistinguishable, have the right to compete in women's sports, notwithstanding all other issues. But when it comes to Roe versus Wade, no uterus, no opinion. You can't reconcile these two things, and espousing them at the same time. I won't finish that sentence, but it questions intelligence or integrity. Okay, so what's Politico saying now? The Trump administration pressured the FDA, including former FDA Commissioner Stephen Hahn, to authorize unproven treatments. That relates to the big eye. They're still not over the attack on the eye, or the HCQ. And let me just splice that part of the sentence out. Pressured the FDA and Stephen Hahn to authorize the first COVID-19 vaccines on an accelerated timeline. Yeah, it was called Operation Warp Speed. And some people were raising the flags about rushing certain things because you can't rush time. You can rush processes. You can rush chemical reactions. You can rush a lot of things that are not dependent on the mere passage of time. And a lot of people were saying it from the beginning, but Operation Warp Speed was about rushing. That's how it's called, Warp Speed, people. But now they're finding something nefarious in it. Senior Trump administration officials fought for the reauthorization of HCQ, yada, yada, yada. The Democrat investigation also documents potential influence from former White House officials regarding FDA's decision. Oh, that's not the right one. And White House attempts to block the FDA, listen to this, from collecting additional safety data on COVID-19 vaccines in order to get them to the public before 2020. The Democrat investigation, you got to read this sentence because they're burying the lead, but how? Also documents, the Democrats' investigation also documents White House attempts to block the FDA from collecting additional safety data. What do you think they're suggesting here, people? They're suggesting that there was nefarious attempts to tinker with, to block, or to impede collecting safety data because that would delay authorizing this vaccine or the EUA authorization for it. Why do you think they're doing that? Because the tide is changing, the narrative is changing, people. The subcommittee's findings that Trump White House officials deliberately and repeatedly sought to bend FDA's scientific work on coronavirus treatment and vaccines to the White House political will are yet another example of how the prior administration prioritized politics over public health. The accusation seems pretty bold there. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn said, who also chairs the subcommittee, these assaults on our nation's public health institutions undermined the nation's coronavirus response. Unless the argument is they didn't do anything. They were just trying to. Everything's hunky-dory, but we've got another reason to go after Trump. And you can, I'll give everybody the article here. But it sounds like exactly what is happening is happening. At first, you deny, then you what's the order that I always say? Deny, deflect, demonize, and when it becomes undeniable, spin. Safe and effective. Shut your face if you've had any adverse reactions. VAERS system is only an indication. It's irrelevant. Demonize, anti-vaxxers, anti-science, conspiracy theorists. Deflect, can't remember. And then spin. What I don't think people are appreciating is that Fauci was appointed to the coronavirus task force in January 2020. If there were shenanigans that were in fact played, if there were issues as relates to collecting safety data, it's not like people haven't been raising these flags for a while. Let me go to my Twitter account actually, because it's Brooke Jackson's. I think I retweeted. No, I'm in incognito. Let me close this. Brooke Jackson, whistleblower. Anybody remember her name? Might have been talking about this for a while. Problems with the Pfizer trials as relates to alleged problems with the alleged trials. Go find the tweet. Yeah. She's been talking about it for a while. And the timing of all of this is quite interesting. Here we go. I'll get this. Bingo, bango, bongo. Here. Share. Interestingly, here we go. This is Brooke Jackson's tweet. Don't the American people and the world deserve to know Pfizer allegedly lied? Hashtag no defamation. There's an update in her false claims lawsuit. Barnes and I are going to talk about it. Boy, howdy, come Sunday. It's not like people weren't talking about this from the very beginning, but now it might be becoming sufficiently undeniable. So what's going to be the spin? It's Trump's fault. He and his administration tried to hide the data, tried to manipulate the data, tried to prevent FDA from collecting it. It's his fault. But Ouchie Fauci was in charge of the NIAID for 38 years based on his resignation letter, appointed to the task force in January. And they're going to try to pin what some people have been raising as red flags from the beginning, not on Fauci. For anybody who's read The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., none of this would come as a surprise regardless. They're not going to try to pin it on Fauci. They're going to try to pin it on Trump. And that's going to be the tactic. And we're going to see if it works. But the tide is changing. And what was verboten on the interwebs, susceptible of banning and did in fact get many people banned, is now going to be the new narrative. Smells like bear poop emoji to me. Trump promoted the I word. He was the only Politico to do that. They're still not over the attack on the big I, capital I, HCQ. They're not over that. That article from Politico, goes in, and the House Committee is talking about how, those alternative treatments had to be withdrawn because they were so potentially dangerous. I'm no doctor. I'm not going to make any statements on it. But cognitive dissonance occurs when our government and media inverts reality. Who are you supposed to believe, them or your own lying eyes? That's it. It's in real time, though. Money changes everything. Cyndi Lauper, rock on, Fry. And there is justice. Okay, justice blind, fair, and righteous. There's justice blind, fair, and righteous. Then you have the opposite, woke justice, where the verdict is predetermined and the justice system tells the narrative that has been given to them. Yep. The only issue is that Trump is going to take flack one way or the other, because he didn't mandate it, he didn't compel it, but he absolutely promoted it. Still is to this day. He wanted that to be his signature, success achievement of his presidency. Trump was not for the mandates, and he wanted us to use what treatments. He promoted it. And it might be the hubris of wanting to have that monumental achievement. But the funny thing is, like, for someone who's the dumbest moron in the history of humanity, he certainly is so clandestine in his plans that he can manipulate the FDA. And Fauci had no idea. It's like they did this all, but if they put pressure on the FDA, it was all unbeknownst to Fauci. Fauci had better be ready to fall on the political sword, because if he doesn't fall on it willingly, he's going to be thrust on it by the Democrats one way or the other. And the reason is this. If there was any shenanigans being played, a la what Brooke Jackson has been talking about for months, if these shenanigans prove to be true, they can try to blame Trump until they're blue in the face. This is going to fall on Fauci one way or the other, because he's either going to have known about it. And I dare say, if anyone did know about any shenanigans, it would be Fauci and not Donald Trump. He might have just been blinded by the allure of this proverbial ring, his success, his signature achievement of his presidency, single-handedly through warp speed, bringing down the pandemic. That will probably be what lure, brought him into this. But if there's one person who knew about it, it's Fauci. And if there's one person who's going to be responsible for it, either for not knowing about what Trump is alleged to have, pressured the FDA, or having known about it and done nothing, Fauci is going to be falling on this political sword one way or the other. It is just fascinating to see things change in real time. I doubt he understood, but he did admit to undoing the gain of function law on Sky News Uncensored. Follow the money. Exactly. Yeah. No, and the do people hear kids screaming in the background? Let me see here. Get this idea. There was something I was just about to look up with Fauci. Oh, the fact check. Listen to this. I'm going to pull this up because it's just, even if it's true, it's just so damn suspicious. Fauci patent. Yeah, here we go. I was looking it up yesterday in remdesivir. So there was a fact check. Here we go. Listen to this. From factcheck.org, people. And then we're going to read this, and then I'm probably going to have to go see what the noise is in the background before we go on our sidebar tonight. Remember, there was a rumor that Fauci had a shareholder or monetary interest either in certain patents or certain pharma companies. Listen to this fact check. Listen to the phrasing. Fauci didn't invent, won't profit from remdesivir. Okay. This is a long time ago. I'd like to see an update on this. The viral social media post falsely claims Fauci is pushing remdesivir as a potential COVID-19 treatment drug because he invented it with Bill Gates and they stand to profit. Full story. Listen to this. Fauci has become a prominent. This is 2.5 years ago. It's a lifetime ago. He has become a prominent figure during the COVID-19 pandemic since he began speaking regularly at daily press briefings at the White House. But as a public backlash to mitigation measures has grown, so has the ire directed at Fauci. He's been the target of, okay, so these are the claims. But neither Fauci nor Gates invented or stand to gain from remdesivir in particular. Since 1984, Fauci has been director of the NIAID, which is part of the yada, 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 yada. We know this part. However, HHS and Fauci do not hold a patent for remdesivir. They do hold patents in other medications. They do have, I tried to find if there are any public disclosures about the shareholdings that Fauci has. There were some disclosures, but not everything. Remdesivir was invented by Gilead Sciences. Okay, so let's just say he doesn't have a patent in remdesivir. Does he have any shareholdings or interest in Gilead Sciences? There's a number of ways to profit, not necessarily from a patent, which he may not have in this particular medication, but from direct shareholdings in Gilead. These are answers I don't have. Just the questions that I would ask. If I had Fauci down for deposition and I'm asking for documents, shareholdings, not just in Gilead Sciences as a company, in companies that have Gilead as part of their portfolio, direct or indirect. I'd like to know. I don't know. But Gilead has received an emergency use authorization from the FDA for remdesivir as a treatment. As part of the EUA granted by the FDA, Gilead has been donating remdesivir. They're so generous. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation also was not involved in the invention or development of remdesivir, but are they involved in any other aspect of this? Distribution, promotion, marketing? It's just these fact checks are so superficial. They're not even addressing the questions to which they don't have answers that they've never asked. And as we all know about remdesivir. Look at this. Oh, despite Trump's repeated promotion of a... no studies have conclusively shown that it is effective, and certainly not. Okay, can't even do it. They don't ask the questions. It's not even clear they know how to ask the questions, where to look. But you don't have to own a patent or benefit from one thing in particular when there are a slew of other ways to benefit directly or indirectly. I would still like to know what companies. What pharma companies Fauci directly or indirectly owns. I'd love to know that. Can I use this info to get restraining order off me at the grocery store? Boru, I don't know, man, but I love that avatar. Kind of reminds me of Jeff Bridges. I want to say Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski. Hooray! Kids in the background. What a wonderful sound. These headphones, I keep them on because they muffle the reality of the noise behind me. Let's see here. I'm looking at the chat. My daughter-in-law took ancient history in college. Had and has no use for it. It teaches you how to think, teaches you how to study, but it's not a professional degree. All right, people. So I think that's it because we're going to have to go get warmed up for tonight. Tonight. Where's my phone? The dog is twisting himself up. Give me 1 second, people. 7:00 tonight, Michael Millerman. But let me just see if there's not anything that I've missed in my running Twitter diary. Yeah, I think we got to everything. We got old cranky McPants. The bat. There was a picture of a bat, people. Look at this. You'll be shocked because look at this picture. So this is, if you read the caption, 5-foot bat in the Philippines. Yes, it's real. No, it won't eat you. It's a herbivore. But holy crap, it's scary. Look at the size of that bat. And there's a motorcycle in front of it. And for a second, I'm like, that bat is 5 feet. Looks like it's 5 feet long. And I had to double check. And the bat has a wingspan. It's called the wolf, the flying wolf, I think. It's got a wingspan of 5 feet. The torso on what you just saw is actually only about 12 inches long, which is still freakishly long for a bat, but it's not. I thought it was for a second, I thought it was a human-sized bat. I was like, I'm going to have nightmares for the rest of my life. So Viva had to go and do the fact check. The torso is only up to 12 inches long. Okay. There you go. Yeah. No, I'm not. Okay. Not getting into the Alex Stein Primetime 99 drama with David Portnoy, but that's some funny ass. Oh, it's the flying fox. Sorry, not the flying wolf. You can see how I can't remember things. I can only remember ways that I remember things. It was a flying furry animal, bigger than a flying rat. All right, people. So tonight, Michael Millerman, 7:00. Going to be lots of Russia talk. So be there or kindly be square. What else? Let me just make sure on Rumble that I haven't missed anything. Another day of descent into the absolute madness of the world in which we live. Got to keep smiling because if you don't smile, you cry. Okay, go. Exercise. I might have time to jog before the 7:00 stream. Exercise. Go talk to people in real life. Does anybody hear that? I better go see what's going on. Exercise. Talk to people in real life. People are actually surprisingly fun, engaging to be around, and the world is not like it appears to be on Twitter, even if that's where we go to fight and to get information for the purposes of argument. So, Winnie, hold on. Get over here. Oh, my back. Oh, my back. Okay, this is the improved Winston. Let me get this off here. Suck the marrow out of it. Okay, you want to say hi? I am Supreme Master Winston. Stare into my eyes. He still smells so good. You love the haircut. He loves it. There's a little piece that is still stuck on his tail right here. I call it the mullet, and I think I'm going to keep it. But, come here. He's soft. He's clean. Okay. You want to say goodnight? Good night, everyone. Couldn't plan that better. I say good night. See you in an hour and a half, people. Go. Enjoy the evening. See you soon.